Welcome to Dorks on Sports, a podcast about four dorks talking about sports. My name is Daniel. Joining me, as always, is Curtis. How are you doing over there?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
You got like a nice glow to your cheeks.
I think it's just lighting.
Do you have a ring light there, or is it?
No, you know
it's
who,
like a
who else?
combination of the television and this other like cheap sort of like Value Village type thing that we've had.
Curtis goes all out on the production values.
Yeah, I can see that.
Millie's got a new ring light. So if you want to check out our podcast listeners, if you want to check out YouTube, you can see all our pretty faces. And Millie's got some new pro lighting going on there. Look at that.
It's true. If you normally watch us on YouTube, I pretty much am a pale lavender in every episode. And my sweet nephew Mason sent me a little ring light for
Looks
Christmas.
good.
So
You've got some nice
Mason.
color in your face. Yeah, rocking the lavender shirt.
No makeup, just a little lipstick. So
Wow,
yeah.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Millie's
No
got
filters.
good skin. Should share your beauty tips with all the listeners.
We'll save that for another pod.
And then we got Allanah over there. Tell me about your background there, Allanah.
I mean, I do think it's fairly self-explanatory. I don't mean to be the one who's like just sitting here laughing about what's happening in the house, but it is, in my opinion, legitimately hilarious.
For one, am enjoying that whole clown show.
yeah.
For the podcast listeners, it's a haiku for Kevin McCarthy that just goes ha 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 ha, you loser.
You loser. No, it's just when you create a party that's built around sedition and disrupting the government and standing in the way of democracy happened, then at some point in time you're going to have to reap what you sow and deal with the fact that people aren't going to listen to you, Kevin McCarthy.
Hey, listen, when you elect a bunch of clowns into Congress, you can't be
You get a
surprised
clown
when they
car.
start acting like clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just what happens. Sorry.
And not to get political, but I think it's fair to say that people like Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, and Marjorie Taylor Greene are clowns. That's all.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Before we jump into, our normal pod about Seahawks and all that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about everything that happened with Damar Hamlin. For those who don't know, and I don't know how you don't know because this is like the biggest sports news this week, but Damar Hamlin, in the middle of Monday Night Football, collapsed in cardiac arrest, had to be revived on the field, and then was taken away in an aid car and put on oxygen and an induced coma. And the game was subsequently canceled. A really scary moment if you were watching it live. Especially, you never want to see a guy get up from a tackle and then immediately collapse on a field. And then it's, when they start doing CPR and bringing out the defibrillators, that's really, really, really scary. And in a violent sport like football, it's the kind of thing that you always fear. The interesting thing about this injury to me was that it wasn't especially violent or extraordinary. It was like a totally routine play. It didn't even look like the hit was that hard. And he's so young, 24, I think. Really scary. Fortunately, he regained consciousness today, even though he's still on ventilation, and he's able to communicate by writing. And from his communication, seems to be in relatively good spirits, all things considered, though he's still in critical condition. But that news seems to be trending upward. And I just wanted to, I thought we had to address it just as sports fans and football fans in particular. This is like the one thing, that you worry about. So I wanted to throw it out and get thoughts, opinions, and what this means to you and what it means to the sport. Allanah, do you want to start? Do you want to talk about it? You have thoughts?
Yeah, so I don't want to proclaim to be an expert in this particular topic or that I have any insight about the status of Damar Hamlin, but I did want to talk a little bit about, as you noted in our little intro, we've been paying attention to what's happening in the House, and we're paying attention to what's happening here. And I think that there's a really interesting comparison on hand between those two events. They're definitely the largest stories that are happening in our national media. And one of them is about something that's really important and is hilarious. And one of them is something that is important to a lot of people, but ultimately not about the core fabric of our country, that is shown people to be human in a way that I haven't seen since 2016. You know, we're living in this era where all of our engagements are in this Zoom window, in this Zoom box. We're always, or sitting and looking at Facebook, we're always looking at screens in order to engage with other humans. And so other humans become screens. They don't become agents of their own destiny, agents of their own identities. And a large part of that is just what we've all gone through since, frankly, Trump was elected. Not to put any commentary on that, but it's really been hard, I think, on our national psyche and our ability to connect with one another and engage with one another. And just watching these two events unfold in the way that they have over the course of the last week, it's been really striking, because we have this one story about the House where it's people who were hired to sow division, continuing to sow division, and being unable to unite with one another for this common goal of electing Kevin McCarthy as their speaker. Thank you. And it's kind of funny to see them bumble in that way, but it's got its sad points, but we take it with a fair bit of humor. But when we're watching Damar Hamlin, we are seeing true humanity at every step in this situation. And I have to say that it's kind of special in a way. It's special might not be the right word, but it is meaningful that this has happened to a Buffalo Bills player. Because for those of you who aren't aware of the Bills fan base, they refer to themselves as Bills Mafia. And whenever something happens to a player on another team, the first people who are engaged with that player's usually foundation are Bills Mafia. So a good example is a few years ago, the dude from Hawaii who plays on New Orleans now, what's his name? Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton and the Cincinnati Bengals, I think, beat the Steelers on the last week of the season when they had nothing to play for. And as a result, the Bills got into the playoffs. And this was, I think, in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And the excitement that was seen on Bills players for getting to the playoffs for the first time since their heyday in the 90s, there was so much excitement in that locker room, and that bled out to the fans. And the fans went out and donated money to Andy Dalton's charity.
That was such a cool story.
It was such a cool story. And then it happened again and again and again and again. And they did it for Tua earlier this year because he was injured in a game like that. And now the Bills fans are struck with supporting a player like Damar Hamlin. And obviously they're going to find his foundation and donate to it. But you know what? So is every other fan base in this country. And I mean, I donated a little bit just because I think that it's important to be a part of that kind of community swell. And the GoFundMe that is supporting his organization has exploded to the point where it's like over $7 million. and is one of the top 10 GoFundMe's of all time. And for the first time in 6 years, I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the number of people and the type of people who are responding to this call for care. And I know that sometimes we use the word prayer in that, but really what it is a call for care. And people are answering that call. And for the first time in 6 years, I feel like a part of a human community again. And I don't think that it's just, and I think that that story is outweighing this other bullshit that we have going on in the house. We're looking at this stuff that's actually about the serious running the country thing. And it's providing us humor and levity for a lot of us, even though it's awful at the same time. And then we're looking at, I can look at what's happening with Damar Hamlin and the groundswell of support around him and say, those are the people I used to know. And they're standing up and saying, this sucks. And I hope that your charity can be a beacon for people. And it's really meaningful to me to watch that and to see that and to start to think like, hey, maybe where we've been has made us stronger, and maybe where we've been will let us make better choices as a community, as a country, unified going forward. And one last thing I wanted to say, which is that Damar Hamlin's family came out and said, thank you for supporting Chasing M's. We think it'd be a really good idea to donate to the Cincinnati hospital where he is. I don't remember what the name of it.
Oh, that's really cool.
Because we've got enough at this point in time. We don't know what we're going to do with that money. And so I think that that's a really good point, that we should, if you are of the type of person who's going to donate, that supporting that medical clinic, they need it. All these clinics need it. All these hospitals need it. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So feeling like for the first time in a while, I'm seeing positive come out of something that's been tragic.
Yeah. Well, I was on Twitter when it happened, just trying to get the news. That seemed like that's where it was all coming from, because the reporters on the ground were in the locker rooms and they were getting the information. And it was the first time I think I've ever been on Twitter where there was actually like a unified front of people expressing, like empathy and care universally. The one person who didn't was Skip Bayless, and everybody dunked on that idiot. Like the entire Twitter sphere of NFL fans dunked on that fucking idiot. It was from players to fans of other teams. I thought it was really, really cool. And his jersey is now the top selling jersey of this week. So, that means that fans of other teams are buying that jersey. And I just think that's really cool. I think that's very, very cool. Millie, do you have anything you want to add, talk about?
Sure. Just kind of walk through the emotions of the last couple of days. I was watching the game live, and it was such a strange sequence of events, because it was a very normal tackle.
Yeah.
And saw him jump up, kind of shake a little bit, just like you do when you jump up. And then all of a sudden he just goes down. And you just sort of assume that this is probably a concussion. And, you run through the emotions that we've, normalized now of like, oh, this game, concussion, CTE, like, oh, how do I feel about this? And I'm someone who is an empathetic person. I have a tendency to immediately try to identify with the person on whom I'm focused and their realities. So for me, anytime someone is seriously injured, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And watching it in real time, it was like, it just seemed like it was probably another injury. And they, even the folks who were covering the game didn't know what was happening. And so it was, they came back and they're like, well, they've been out there for a while, and the players had created this wall so that the cameras couldn't get through,
Mhm.
and the people who are speaking weren't entirely sure. The folks back in ESPN headquarters, and even people like later come to find like Scott Van Pelt, who's watching all of the different feeds, because as soon as Monday night games end, we go to Scott and he does all kinds of stuff. Later talking to him, like he was able to see feeds where he could actually see what was happening and that there was CPR being performed and all of that. But for the folks who are covering the game, they didn't even know. It was quite a while before they understood what was happening. And they're our lifeline within that moment. So it was sort of that ride of, oh, is he hurt? Oh, is he seriously hurt? Oh, is it a concussion? Why are there so many horrible concussions this year? And a lot of them off of things that don't seem like major hits. And you're running, and of course it was in Cincinnati that Tua had his horrible concussion with the, what is it called, the fencer's hands, or whatever, and so you're flashing back to all of this, only to it just kept going.
Yeah.
And it was very clear that this was not normal.
Yeah.
And the people that you rely on were at a loss. And there were a few things, that were said that I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because they were like, I've never seen an ambulance on the field. Have you? And in my head, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Right.
I know. Yeah, totally.
And I think I even reached out to you all. I was like, am I not? I mean, definitely when Tyler Lockett had his hit,
Yes.
and Lockett,
And yes.
both of them actually, those were, I was just like, no. There have been ambulances
yes.
field before. This is a very strange thing to say. And in retrospect, I think about it, and it was so clear that these folks who are so used to being able to be on top of the moment were at such a loss that their own memories were failing them, because they were just like, I've never seen this. And suddenly that meant they had never seen any of it.
Yeah.
And just psychologically what that's like. And this was a Monday night where I was completely by myself. So it's one of those things emotionally too, when you're, there's no one to share with. I was messaging you all because I'm like, what, are you here? What's happening? And it was a little bit before we all started chatting. And it's that scared, lonely feeling you have when something horrible's happened and you don't have that shared human experience yet of understanding what's going on and how it affects everything else that's important to you in your world. And, football's important to the 4 people who are on this podcast. This obviously rippled out way beyond people who care a lot about football. It rippled out in a way, like you said, this swell of human compassion and care. But I will tell you, on the other side of that, it was, I mean, for everything where you said on Twitter, people were like united in this positive way you hadn't seen. Well, turn a page to every single sports betting page,
Jesus Christ,
to every single message board for fantasy players, and it is and has been all week an absolute crazy shit show.
Yeah.
For some people, it's because their first one is like, this is a human being and what we're talking about doesn't matter. Just like this game doesn't matter. Just like, of course you shouldn't go back out there and play it. But and I want to ask that people give a little grace, because some people move through things differently and they can't immediately see the humanity and the, of course you're not going to play moment. They come at it from a different direction, which is, what are we going to do? Are we going to continue playing this game? And great for people who immediately jump to, of course not. How dare you even suggest that? But this is also a game. It's a business. It's a lot of things. And there are people whose first thoughts are going to be, do we continue playing this game? What are the protocols?
Yeah.
And for all of the, there's a lot of people who are like, how dare these referees be like, I guess, go warm up. I don't think that's how it went down. I think it was more like, okay, so normally we would say you get 5 minutes to warm up. Like, they don't know what to do.
Totally.
You are in a moment that is unprecedented, a word we're using way too much in these years. You grasp at what you know.
Yeah.
And oh, sorry, you muted yourself, Amelia.
I did. I'm gesturing wildly. I need to bring it in. Bring it in. I saw a lot of people lash out at other folks for asking questions like, well, are they going to finish the game? I don't think that's unreasonable to ask.
It wasn't, and it had large implications on playoff seeding.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that was my first. I was like, of course they're going to have to play this game. They'll probably just play it tomorrow, because my brain had not processed through enough of like, no, they're not.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I moved into that next place, of putting myself in a situation and looking at these players, especially, the quarterbacks, because we got lots of tight shots of them, and they both have such expressive faces and eyes, and we were just like, oh, sweet Jesus, of course you can't play.
Yeah.
You can't play.
It was heartbreaking watching the reactions of the players on the sideline. In fact, when it was going into like minute 20 and, he's still on the field and you have these players on the sidelines crying, I was fearing that there was a death on the field.
I was too. And because it was taking so long and they weren't immediately taking him off, which we came to learn was because they needed to get his heart started before they left that field. I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
I thought this was taking so long because they were trying to figure out how to tell everyone.
Totally.
And then I thought it was a huge cover up that they just were taking him to the hospital so that they could finish this game. Like, I totally believed that the evil empire was somehow going to force people to play. And I absolutely understand that it was, pushback from people in the moment, the players and the coaches who were like, no, like, read the room.
I love that the coaches gestured to each other from the sideline and met in the middle of the field to both just say, we're calling this, right? Like, there's no way we can play this game. I thought that was a really cool move by both of them.
Yeah.
They both showed a lot of class, those two.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the repercussions, which I think we're going to talk about a little more in a bit, but are huge. But I am really proud of the way in which ultimately things have been handled in taking the step back and addressing health and mental health. And I didn't want to watch those teams finish that game.
Totally.
I actually didn't even want to watch football. Like, I have to say, because it's something I love. I mean, I'm super thankful that he is awake and alert and apparently mentally showing to be completely mentally intact. He's very present. All these things that you look for, right? After something like this happens. I'm selfishly also thankful that it happened so quickly, because I can't watch this game until I feel okay. And I wasn't going to feel okay if this poor man was still in an induced coma. Like, so selfishly, like, of course I'm thrilled he's looking like he's going to be okay. And selfishly, I'm really happy it happened as quickly as it did, because I love football.
Seriously. I mean, Sunday football, I think, would have been really hard to watch if Damar Hamlin was still unresponsive, right?
It's just so many conflicting
feelings. Almost expecting that the NFL was going to cancel the whole week and postpone the week 17 or week 18 to next week. They didn't. They did cancel the game, so both the Bills and the Bengals will only play 16 games this season. And then the NFL, for as difficult as this decision is, and for as the implications that it has in playoffs and playoff seedings, I thought they came up with as elegant a solution as they could. Curtis, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think the three of you said a lot. I actually wasn't watching the game. I was at a friend's house having a movie night sort of hangout session, and so I came home probably around the 7 o'clock hour, and I was actually when I started looking at the phone and seeing this whole text thread, and I was like, what the fuck happened, sort of thing. And
Yeah.
so when I realized I just went online, went on YouTube, started looking at things, went on Twitter, and it was just, I saw the play and I agreed it looked like a very, very routine football play.
Yeah.
He wasn't set up in a really great position to get his shoulders down for the tackle to absorb the contact. And the ball carrier did what any ball carrier would do from Pee Wee League on through college into the pros, and that's just sort of barrel down and try and fight for extra yardage, right?
Yeah.
And so that's all that happened in that play. Hundreds of plays like that happened through the course of football games played throughout the weekends in America in the fall.
Yeah.
And nothing like that ever happens, hardly at all. There was one time back in the mid 90s where a game, I think, that was played by the Detroit Lions and somebody else, a linebacker by the name of Reggie Brown, got injured on the field and stopped breathing for a while, and they had to get him breathing again, but his heart did not stop. So it just really reminded me that that this is an inherently dangerous sport that people willingly do, and I just sort of feel like I've always approached this game by and large from the perspective of the players that play it, because I played it a bit in high school. And I actually remember when I signed up for football my freshman year of high school, I had to sign this paperwork, and basically a lot of it was waiver language, and I'm asking my dad like what I'm signing, and he just blankly sort of stared at me and said like, yeah, in case you die on the field, we can't sue the high school. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And it's just like, yeah, chances are you're gonna be fine, but this is what this is about, and so yeah, we almost had a scenario which I think many Americans that watch this sport willingly, and then I think many more Americans that don't particularly care for this sport have always sort of feared that someday somebody is going to lose their life playing this game. And it almost happened. And so I just sort of, for me, I just kind of went back to my own footprint as a fan, and keeping in perspective as as intense as these games can be, and how it can stir up emotions and stuff with either how I view players on rival teams that I don't particularly care for, or if there's some sort of player that I don't think is really towing the line particularly all that well, like I just I just sort of want to sort of check myself on not trashing these young men that are essentially risking their lives to create a livelihood for themselves and a generation of family members that might come after them. I mean, they are, yeah, it's a highly dangerous sport. Played properly, a lot of injuries can be avoided and risked, and it's actually kind of surprising given the amount of football that is played all throughout the fall weeks, that more injuries like this don't occur.
That's
the law of
was my
averages
takeaway.
still sort of say it's almost kind of like the whole I actually have a deep-seated fear of sharks. And my wife thinks I'm totally nuts for this, right? And so I spent a week on the shores in paradise on Maui, and I spent a lot of time in the water with my kid on a boogie board and snorkeling and all this sort. And there wasn't like a second in the water where I didn't consider like looking at my surroundings and sort of being aware, because there's fucking tiger sharks in those waters. And like, most people go into those waters and never get attacked. But guess what happened just a few weeks ago on one of the beaches that we were hanging out? This woman from Bellingham and her husband were snorkeling down there, and a fucking tiger shark grabbed a hold of her and ate her. And she was like an experienced surfer and snorkeler and had been doing this for years. So I just feel like, football, there was that element of a fucking tiger shark on that field.
Totally.
And
I actually,
I think this is what we were witness to. It finally fucking happened. And thank God, they resuscitated him. And it was actually really interesting. I'll just end this sort of quickly, is that the Seahawks had the wherewithal to, in their weekly press conferences, put the team doctor, the team physician out, in front of the cameras and the microphone. And he sort of explained the whole protocols. And he's just, oh yeah, we take this shit really seriously. We spend an hour before every game prepping for the potential of a player going into cardiac arrest and what we're going to do on that field.
That's really interesting.
So like the league has been anticipating a scenario like this, and people can, slam the league for maybe considering, initially going on with the game, but they had their shit together. To get that equipment onto the field with those physicians and get that man's heart resuscitated again and get him to the hospital. Like, they were prepared for this scenario, and they were prepared exceptionally well. So I think they need to be commended for that. I didn't love hearing initially that, there was, they were telling the officials, hey, let's get ready for these guys to warm up in 5 minutes and get back going. And then basically, when word got around to Joe Burrow, he was just kind of like, yeah, no, fuck that. And, he got a contingent of his players talking with Buffalo players, and they were all kind of like, yeah, no, we're not going to do this. And so it sounds like Michael Silvers, that's the reporter that reported that on Twitter, that he had it on good authority that that's how the whole thing went down.
Which is,
for the record, the NFL does dispute the claim that they said to get ready, we're going to go in 5 minutes, just so that all the the information is on the table. But ESPN and Michael Silver have both stood behind, like, no, that's what happened, that's what we heard.
Then it's a hearsay thing. It's just
exactly
totally. I think about this a lot. It's hard sometimes being a fan of the NFL, just knowing, like what injuries can do, not just, the brain injuries, but the knee injuries and the everything injuries that can really affect the quality of life of a player as they get older. And reconciling that with my enjoyment of watching the game. And one thing I keep thinking about is, these players hopefully know the risks and have, consented to that willingly themselves. And I think about, I used to subscribe to a magazine called Men's Journal, and a lot of the articles they had were about extreme sports. So the people who would do mountain peak climbs of, the craziest variety, or go off on hang gliders. And these were people who, their chances of dying as young men were pretty high. And a lot of them did, dying at 28, 29, 32 years old. Because of the activities they chose to do. And, it's easy to say like, wow, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. But on the other hand, it's something they enjoyed doing, and it was a risk they knew they were taking. And so what I would like to see more of, I think, from football, not just the NFL, but college and high school as well, is just more comprehensive education about the kinds of risks that you would be taking if you were to enter into this sport, particularly around brain injuries and stuff like that. And I don't even know if we should be doing full contact in high school anymore, just because of brain development, stuff like that. But that's a topic for another pod, I think. But
I was going to say, I think that there's opportunity in all sports, because when you look at basketball players try to walk around, like the amount of strain that's gone on to their knees, their ankles, their hips, their whole body, like you don't want to move once you retire from that sport. And when you retire from the NBA and to a certain extent, the NFL, and to a certain extent soccer, you're dealing with a lot of head injuries. Every time you hit a ball, it can be a minor concussion. And that's where CTE really kicks in. So, and most, like, I think what Curtis said at the start of his statement, it's like here we're, or at the start of his little thing, here we're rooting on people who are putting their bodies on the line for our entertainment. Like, it's our gladiatorial event. And when people ask the question of why are these people being paid as much as they're being paid, that's why. What we're asking for them to do is to cut 15 years off of their life.
That's right.
And to make the last 20 years of their life not high quality life. Like a lot of, you look at Troy Aikman, like his hands don't move.
Right.
He has talked at length about how concussions have affected his ability to maintain relationships with people. And so, I think that there is a lot of evaluation that can be done about where we are as a society in terms of supporting these. And like, that's coming from the four of us who are like deeply engaged in this sport. So it's a discussion that I hope this will help further societally.
And there's a lot of football players out there who have sustained injuries who didn't have Troy Aikman money, or Ricardo Lockett was not getting paid much more than NFL minimum wage when he suffered that neck injury that took him out. But we're wishing Damar Hamlin all the best, and the news that's come out is more than great, and I hope his condition continues to improve.
For the record, his first question when he came out was, "Did we win?
Did we win?"
Yeah, and there's levity to that, but also that kind of makes me sad a little bit too.
I 100% agree.
But I understand why it's there. It was just like, that was a woof moment for me.
Totally. Jumping into the Seahawks a little bit. Seahawks played the Jets last week and roundly beat them. That was a fun game to watch. What was the final score? 23-6?
23-6.
23-6. That's a butt whooping, and it could have been a lot more if the Seahawks were a little more efficient in the red zone. But hey, hats off to the Seahawks. That Jets defense is no joke. So putting 23 points on that defense, I think, is a win. I also like, Gino got some revenge there. Pete Carroll got some revenge there. I know Pete Carroll will never say it, but that felt a little good.
Pete Carroll kind of says it.
Yeah, does he? Yeah.
No, he kind of says
it.
He's just like, oh yeah, there's meaning behind playing.
Yeah.
It was a lifetime ago, but there's meaning there.
Yeah, there's meaning there. Yeah.
He doesn't dodge that.
He's a competitor. The defense, the 3 weeks in a row put together another quality performance. And now the question I do want to ask is, was that a quality of the defense being good? Like, are they continuing to show up, or is it because the Jets offense is really bad?
Is that to me?
Yeah, whoever. What do you think?
I'll just volunteer it. I think it's a combination of both. I feel over the last 3 games, the defense has definitely been turning it around. I mean, if we go back to where they were against the Raiders and the Panthers, I mean, they were atrocious on, they couldn't stop anything on the ground. And I feel like they gave San Francisco a pretty good fight. I feel like they adjusted
I do too.
to them a bit. And I think that they actually surprisingly played Patrick Mahomes pretty tough in Kansas City. And they and I kind of feel like that game might have been the one for like all the youth on that side of the ball to go like, oh shit, we just did this to Patrick Mahomes. Do
you think that has a bit to play in Pete Carroll's, dogged commitment to continue with this Fangio defense?
Like in terms of like not
just
adjusting
seeing that
back
it
to
had
his older-
success against a quarterback like Pat Mahomes, and that they're kind of putting it together now.
Yeah, I feel like he's committed to seeing it through. I don't think he wanted to pull the plug on, the whole thing that his coaches put together. I mean, that just shows a total. I mean, I was sort of calling for it basically, but he wasn't going to do that to Clint Hurt and Sean Desai. And I think we're seeing the benefits of that. I mean, I feel like the gap integrity is better. At the line of scrimmage. They're still getting gashed a bit initially, but when you're showing the 3-4 look, I mean, that's just a defense that will be more willing to give up, yards on the ground to, put pressure on the quarterback.
Which they're doing. They're finally really getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, Darrell Taylor has really been sort of exploding here lately and showing, more and more promise. But yeah, I think that the turn on defense has been like a surprising sort of positive sort of turn of events. For me personally, as a fan, I was super like all but like done with that defense 4 weeks ago, and now I'm kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting again.
One thing that comes to mind about that defense is that it was designed with the very specific intention of utilizing Jamal Adams, and he went down in the first game of the season. Now, like the decision becomes then, do we go back to what we know and was built before Jamal Adams, or do we keep this thing that we just built around him and try and use other players to do it? And I think it just took some time when we saw how the season has gone. And I think that the other players are starting to get it. And then if you think about what's going to happen with Jamal, I think he's probably played his last game as a Seahawk. But if he were to come back on some kind of reduced deal, maybe that would indicate like, oh, hey, this defense that's built around Jamal is going to be a fire. We're going to burn bridge. We're going to whatever. I'm having a trouble with the euphemism right now.
I agree. I too wonder if Jamal's played his last game, especially with how well Ryan Neal has come on this season. The Seahawks offense finally started, stringing together some drives, and they were pretty good on third down. A lot of that had to do with K9 really having a dominating game, but also I think that offense really needs Tyler Lockett, to convert some of those third downs. What do you think, Millie? I mean, is it a coincidence that, they kind of put it together when Tyler's back? I know he didn't play like a full game, but still.
Well, for sure. You need your little lucky charm, which is our pocket Lockett. Also, he's just a fantastic football player. Like, for all of my, cutification of Tyler Lockett. He's a phenomenal football player. He's an amazing receiver, and he is the difference maker on this team as far as the receiver corps goes.
Yeah.
DK Metcalf in this game was close to useless. Most of that had to do with the fact he was being covered by Sauce Gardner, but
Sauce is good, man.
Sauce is good. But looking back over some of those plays and Gino's trying to get him the ball and in the end zone, it happens to, I mean, he's in double coverage. One of those people is Sauce Gardner. He's not going to get the ball. But then there was the sideline catch that should have been this amazing.
That was a gorgeous fucking throw.
That was one of the best throws
that
Gino
was between
had.
two defenders in his freaking lap.
It was gorgeous.
And it was like
so good.
Yeah, and that was just a brazen drop.
Yeah. And I will also give so yes, you need Lockett, and hopefully he's playing this week. He is still he's still questionable. He has a shin injury. I somehow missed the play he was hurt, but he's expected to play, but he's a shin injury, so that makes me a little nervous for this week. The other really bright shining spot, other than Ken Walker looking more and more like who we think he was DJ Dallas.
DJ played great.
DJ Dallas played fantastic, and he got to be who I think at the beginning of the season, who we thought he was going to be in. If you had, well, I should say, I mean, in the beginning of the season, we have Rashad Penny. It was a very different circumstance, but DJ Dallas is this utility player. And when he and Kenneth Walker, I think they had like 2 games together where we got to kind of see how this could work. And it was back where, it's not the Kenneth Walker play. And there's this gorgeous play where Gino just, there's nothing. So Gino just kind of casually dumps the ball, just bloop, and calm Gino, which is the Gino who we love, who wins games. When he doesn't look like he is trying to make everything happen, when he has the ability to calmly see everything happening around him, he is a fantastic quarterback who finds that one person who's like, yeah, I think you could probably get 3 yards. Turns out it's 13. Hey,
I loved it. That like shovel that looked like peak Mahomes, where it was like, it looked like he was going to take off and just get a couple, but then he saw an open Dallas and just the little shovel pass.
I thought he fucked it up. I thought he was past the line of scrimmage. I was like, oh, but it was a forward pass. And Devin was like, oh, no, he was still behind the line of scrimmage. I was like, was he? And then, I mean, absolutely, not even a question. I didn't realize how far back he started. But there was a lot of really, really bright spots on the offensive drives. The red zone defense from the Jets was strong. I mean, they held us to field goals for a reason, and they have all season long had a fantastic defense.
Yeah.
But we also, I mean, we were playing Mike White, but we also had 2 fantastic interceptions. And it wasn't Tariq Woolen, it was Diggs, and it was Michael Jackson. Like, everybody was playing. And
Tariq had that drop, which was just like, it would have been great for Tariq to get an interception, on there was a little story of like Tariq versus Sauce, but also just to take the lead and the interceptions for the season would have been great. Yeah.
Thank goodness they got that ball back.
Yeah.
Poor Michael Jackson. He's like, and he's going, and then pop. And I was like, oh no.
Oh my God, that terrified me. I know. Good for Mike. Mike Jackson has been good this season. I've liked him.
Everything was turning the way that we talked about. We needed to see it turn, what we wanted to see in these games, to give us hope, to make us think maybe we could do something if we somehow get into a wild card situation. We're firing on almost all cylinders. So we'll see what happens this week.
We will see what happens this week. So that win brings the season to 8-8. We are right in the wild card hunt. We do not own our own destiny. We have to rely on the Lions to beat the Packers in Green Bay, and then we have to take care of business at home versus the Los Angeles Rams. I think us taking care of our end will be, I don't want to say easy, but I think that's doable. Relying on the Lions to beat Green Bay in December or January, that's a little harder. It's a little tougher.
I'm angry. I'm just so angry.
Yeah, tell me.
Green Bay sucked.
They suck.
They sucked all year.
I know.
They don't deserve to be in this circumstance. They
Agreed.
don't deserve this. And because of their percentage, like, give me a fucking break. They don't deserve
agree.
this.
If you look at TikTok over the course of the last 6 weeks, which is roughly equates to their winning streak and how they've been to pull themselves back into fighting contention for playoffs, there are so many videos that are specifically about how the NFL is rigged to get Green Bay into the playoffs. Because it's a classic, because the NFC this year has a lot of those like reputable teams. You know, the Dallas will be in the playoffs, the Giants, these are the 49ers. These are all like big name, long standing histories of quality play. They all have more than 2 Super Bowls. And then adding Green Bay to that, they think will just dramatically improve the ratings on the sport. When in fact, like, I think everybody watches that, NFL football in the playoffs. Like, well, you don't need to have San Francisco, Green Bay.
Can I jump into the conspiracy a little bit here? Here's the thing about the NFL and the NFC playoff teams. I think the NFL is scared that the NFC isn't going to have if you look at the quarterbacks the NFC is putting into the playoffs, it's like Brock Purdy, you know what I mean?
Dak Prescott.
You know, there's no like marquee storied legendary names.
Prescott's pretty good though.
He's good, but
he's
you know,
but then there's Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, and
yeah,
and Tom Brady.
Yeah, the rotting corpse of Tom Brady, and Jalen Hurts, or you know, are we going to get his backup? What? Yeah.
Oh, Minshew,
my boy Minshew. Yeah,
Minshew hasn't been doing too good.
He has not looked good.
Sort of.
But here's the thing: he's fun to watch. I just like Minshew's swagger out there. I feel like every time Minshew takes the field, like right before he takes a hike, he has to like take one last puff of a cigarette and like flick it before he calls hike. It's like, you know, hike. Yeah.
Shotgun a Red Bull.
That's right, Shaka. Yeah. That's his victory. That's his touchdown dance. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe they need Aaron Rodgers in there. Just like they need Tom Brady in there. Oh, fucking Tom Brady. Yeah.
Right? Like,
fucking
same
Tom
deal.
Brady.
Like, how did they pull it out at the end to be in a situation where
it's a conspiracy, Millie? There's no reason Tom Brady should be in there. That team is also dog shit. That team does not deserve to be in the playoffs.
Well, and you know, that I will say for that game, I mean, all of a sudden Brady and Evans have a connection again, and they've got 3. I don't know how much the rest of you watch a lot of the other games, but the connections between Brady and Evans last Sunday were spectacular.
Bonkers. Yeah, bonkers.
These huge long passes. One of them was like this incredible catch. Like, but I can't stand Mike Evans, don't get me wrong. And it just shouldn't be happening. Like, it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to connect all season. It's been an issue. They're fighting about it. And then all of a sudden it's, you know, oh, we need to win this game. And they put their shit aside and have this brilliant connection. And I just want to rip my hair out.
I kind of think that's what it is though, honestly. I mean, I think that's what it is with Tampa. I think that's what it is with Green Bay. I mean, they've just got players at the most important position that have done it at a high level for such a long time. It's like it's like the 100-year-old alligator in the swamp, right? Like there's
Yeah.
other faster alligators, there's other
named Tom
probably
Brady.
stronger alligators out there, but that fucker has been there for 100 fucking years old and knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And that's why he's alive.
Well, that's
you're
interesting.
absolutely right. And that's exactly, and the other thing is being healthy at the right time too.
Right.
Right? Those guys are all suddenly healthy. And then
Yeah.
you look at something like the Eagles, where Jalen Hurts, who has been the most fantastic thing about football this season, is hurt for 2 weeks and probably not playing again this week, and will suddenly have to play again in the playoffs and be rusty and probably disappointing because he's not healthy at the right time.
Yeah.
Justin Fields, amazing, and then not healthy at the right time to push them through anywhere. So that's the other piece of it. I think you're right. These alligators who can afford to be
100
hurt
years
at
old.
the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I know. The thing about those two quarterbacks too is like they have a history of kind of shit in the bed in the first half of the season and then just suddenly going on a tear. Like how many times have we gone, Tom Brady's over the hill. This is it for him. He's not winning. He's not going to the playoffs. And then he just rips it off, 7 wins in a row. Aaron Rodgers does the same thing. Every time we're like, well, this is it for Aaron Rodgers. Does he love the game anymore? I think he doesn't want to do it. And then all of a sudden, Aaron Rodgers starts stringing together some wins. Yeah, these fucking 100-year-old alligators in the swamp.
Maybe it's because the NFL designs it for them to be able to do that.
I like this
Just
conspiracy. I'm here for it. Well, so here's what I want to ask. Aaron Rodgers to San Francisco next season. Is that going to happen?
I don't care.
I think it's going to be Brady.
Brady to San Francisco?
I mean, that's the rumor.
Oh, please, God, I
wanted
would
to go
love
to
that.
Brady. He wanted to go to San Francisco all along. That's where he's from.
I mean, as a
Give it to
system
me.
quarterback, it worked great.
Actually, he would probably be kind of scary in a Shanahan offense.
Yeah.
But I want to bury Tom Brady twice a season. Yeah, give it to me. An 8,000-year-old Methuselah Brady. Yeah, give it to me. That's what I
I
want.
actually see if Rodgers, I don't think they can move him because of all the guaranteed money that they signed him to. I just think it destroys their cap. I think he's there. But if there was a team to be able to throw enough at Green Bay to do it, I could actually see Mark Davis in Vegas.
I kind of think Tom Brady is more
wanting a 39-year-old quarterback because of his name. That would be such an Al Davis thing to do.
Totally.
But you know that Devontae Adams would go running. Like he would want out immediately because I'm pretty sure it wasn't just I want to play with Derek Carr. It was also I don't want to play.
I
with
want to
that
get
guy.
away from Aaron Rodgers. Yeah.
That'd be a lot of popcorn to consume.
Yeah.
So, to further the conspiracy, the Lions Packers are playing the night games. So the Seahawks will be playing the Rams before them, which means the conspiracy goes, if Seattle wins, then the Lions have nothing to play for. And, the NFL is serving that platter up to the Packers to take. And if the Packers win, they go to the playoffs. I'm interested in how this is going to go. I mean, I think it's a long shot for the Lions to beat the Packers in Green Bay. But I don't know. This Lions team has been pretty dangerous. And we need the Lions to win. So if we beat the Rams on Sunday, then we will have to wait to see if the Lions can beat Green Bay to know before we know if we're going into the postseason. How do we think that's going to go?
I'll just go quickly and I'll go first. I'm just whatever. I want a scenario where Green Bay doesn't get into the playoffs. I want the Seahawks to get into the playoffs, but honestly, worst case scenario is Green Bay getting in. So not Seattle not getting in. So I'm going to say that the Rams are going to beat the Seahawks, which will give Detroit the energy to beat the Packers, the motivation to beat the Packers. And I think that that's the most pragmatic scenario, right? Like that's the way we ensure that the Packers don't get in. If we win, then they're just going to be like, here you go. Here's 500 yards of penalties against the Lions, getting Green Bay.
If the Rams do beat the Seahawks, I will become a Lions fan.
Oh,
Number one,
1,000%. I'll be one already. I want them to be in the playoffs. I want us more, but
yeah, I agree. I don't want Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, but also
keep that fucking COVID denier out of the playoffs.
I like what the Lions are doing this season,
Yeah.
and they're kind of an underdog. I like the whole story. I like it. Yeah. What do you think, Curtis? How's it going to go down?
I think it's going to be a tougher game this week than it was last week. I think it's a division rivalry. I think the Rams want nothing more than to spoil the Seahawks season and the chance of the Cinderella story. I think they're going to come up here fighting and scrapping, and I think they're going to throw everything at Seattle that they can. I think a lot of the players on the defense are going to be jacked up because it's an opportunity for Bobby Wagner to beat the team that cut him, and so they had that chip on the shoulder the last time they played, and they played him tough that way. So I think Wagner's going to be sewed up with a ton of emotions. I think he's going to be playing his ass off, and I think his teammates are probably going to be there with him. But I also think that Seattle sees the opportunity, and I think that they're going to carry a momentum from their win next week, and I think they know what's in store in this game. I don't think the Rams are going to surprise Seattle. So I'm going to say Seattle carries the day, but it's going to be closer than last week. I think it'll be probably something like 23-17 Seahawks. And then I think that's as far as their season goes, because I think it's the Packers that's going to end up winning that game.
Yeah. I also think it's going to be a battle. I also think the Seahawks are going to take it against the Rams. It's at home. Pete Carroll is going to have this team fired up. I think they have a lot of momentum coming out of that Jets game, and they know what they can do. I think it's going to be Seahawks 30, Rams 28. Unfortunately, I also think that the Packers are going to beat the Lions in Green Bay and spoil the Seahawks' chances of going into the postseason.
Well, fuck that.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to manifest. Okay. We're going to manifest
Let's do it.
this right now. Everything I'm hearing is, the Rams want to come up here. They want to screw up our chances. We're doing it for Bobby. Bobby wants to take it to the Hawks and steal their. Fuck that. This is smoke. No, what they're doing is trying to convince people they have a chance. They do want to do it for Bobby, but they don't have the weapons. So no, the Hawks are going to take this. They're going to have the 12s. It's the last game. They have momentum. Things worked last week. I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game. So I am going to go 21-13.
No, I like it. Yeah.
And you know what? Green Bay thinks too much of themselves. They don't deserve it. I don't care how many flags can be thrown. I'm going to manifest the Lions.
Let's go, Detroit.
Let's go, Detroit.
Go, Detroit. I've been wrong all
Fight some
year,
knees.
so,
I want an
score?
historically bad game from Aaron Rodgers. I want him to throw like 4 picks and just get buried.
Cry and blame everybody and break some Microsoft Surface pads.
Yeah.
Wasn't that
The
Brady?
best Aaron Rodgers is the Aaron Rodgers that's crying on the sideline, like pouting on the bench.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's not strong enough to break them. He's thrown them, but they don't break. Allanah, do you have a score for the Rams win?
27-17.
Oof.
Oh, Rams are going to stomp them.
I don't think that's a stomping. I don't think 10 points is a stomping.
Yeah.
But note that I don't like. I don't. That is a manifestation as well. That is manifesting a reality where Detroit gets in.
Yeah. And you know what else I'm manifesting? Broncos loss.
Yeah.
I want, I mean, what I'd really love is like pick number 3, pick number 2. That's not going to happen. But I'll take pick number 4. I'll take pick number 4.
Pick number 3. If they lose, it's pick number 3, regardless of what else
Pick
happens.
number 3.
It's if they win, then it could be 4 or 5.
And who are they playing?
Got it.
They're playing San Diego, who's already clinched the playoffs. And if the Ravens win, then they're not going to play their starters, because then the Ravens would clinch the higher seed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fortunately for us, the Broncos have a hard time beating second string squads too. So
True story. I will say, as far as the flex conspiracies, I'm really looking forward to the Titans Jaguars, and I really wish that was the Sunday night game.
agreed.
I feel like it should be, because it really is.
Because historically, it's the winning end.
So I'm
Yeah.
disappointed that's not the Sunday night game. But it is what it is. I mean, I would have it probably just means Green Bay would have played first with the Lions, which
Mhm.
even that would have been better, I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
and they would have had the same primetime slot. So
Totally.
Grr,
Grr.
grr, I'm so
Yeah.
mad.
Before we get into Dorking, I just wanted to brag about the Kraken a little bit. Kraken are on a 3-game win streak, and they've won their games by 3 goals or more in each of those wins. That's been really fun. Mandy
Awesome.
Beniers going into the All-Star game, also really fun.
Yeah.
Also, in today's game, so the Kraken just got a guy off the waivers who was put on the waivers by the Nashville Predators, and he scored the first goal of the game. So like, that's kind of fun.
Congrats,
You know?
buddy.
I know. And then Matty Padilla
Welcome to Seattle.
got a score. Yeah. So that's really fun. Also, Shane Wright playing in Team Canada's Hockey World Cup, and they're doing really well. And so, go Kraken. That's been really fun.
I just wanted to quickly call out that I know that this is not an NBA podcast, but the happenings in the league
Mhm.
have been pretty astounding right now.
Mhm.
Luka Doncic had a 61-20-10 game where
That is such a bonkers stats.
right, and then Donovan Mitchell just had a 71-8 game, I think. And meanwhile, Giannis put up 55, which is a career high. But I just wanted to talk about the Luka thing. Not only did he have a 61-20-10 or 61-20-11, he brought the team back from down, I want to say 13, or no, down 9. No, it was down 13 with under 30 seconds left.
Jeez.
And hit a game tying bucket, and then literally did this dance. Like on the court. Like, it was the most beautiful, memeable thing that I've ever seen. So I highly recommend finding that if you can.
That's awesome. He's fun to watch.
Yes.
Yeah. Why don't we get in some dorking? I'll start. You know what I've been dorking out about? So the new God of War game came out. I never played any of the other ones, so I picked up the last one that came out, and goddamn, that's a good game. I should have picked it up sooner. I'm sorry I didn't. I know everybody was saying it was like the game of the year in 2018, and I just sat on it. I don't know why. It's way in my wheelhouse. It's about at least in this one, there in previous God of War games, it took place in Greek mythology. Kratos, who's the character that you play, is the son of Zeus, because Zeus is a slut. And he goes to war with the Greek pantheon. And then through those games, he gets banished, and then it picks him up years and years and years later. He has a son, and he's hiding out in Asgard. So now we're in Norse mythology. Greek mythology, Norse mythology, like this is way in my wheelhouse. This is the kind of stuff that I loved as a kid. I know all the myths, I know all the characters. And then on top of it all, the sort of the character arc of the whole thing is about this man who has matured. He's older, he's raising a son. It picks up where his wife has died and his son's mother, and so now it's about grief. And then it's about this man who is a demigod and is powerful in all these ways, and completely insecure about raising this son on his own, and then reconciling his own sort of like toxic masculinity traits of rage and, all of this stuff that he doesn't want to pass on to his kid. And then he's caught up in it all. I haven't played far enough to find out what the mystery is, but early in the game, in their little cabin out in the boondocks of Asgard, they are met by a man who goes by the Stranger, which I immediately identified as Balder, who in Norse mythology myths always goes by the Stranger. And he's a bad guy, and he and Kratos kind of get into it. Kratos keeps saying, like, please leave me alone. I want none of this, go away. And he keeps bothering him, and he's forced to fight him. And then they're on the run, and they have to find out why these people are after him. I think it's a really good game, and the relationship between Kratos and his son is very touching throughout. And then the grief around their mother and wife dying and all of that. Really good stuff. That's what I'm dorking out about. It's a good game. Play it if you haven't.
It's on PS4, the PS systems only, so I don't have the ability
it is an
to play it.
exclusive. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which is a bummer, because it's also right up my alley.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm dorking out about. Millie, what are you dorking out about?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, Allanah, you wanna dork out? Let's
No,
dork
it's
out.
okay. It's go, Millie.
Sure. I am dorking out about a show that I wasn't expecting much from, which is season 3 of Jack Ryan. I'm sure many people gave up on it. Maybe
On
in
Amazon
season
Prime.
1 without even finishing season 1. It's on Amazon Prime. And season 3 is what you wanted this show to be. It is a show about a CIA agent. We got possible nuclear stuff. We got Russians. We've got subterfuge. We've got, friends outside the agency helping you out. There's no love story, finally. So we don't have to get dragged down into a bunch of bullshit about who he loves and how you can live in both worlds, or
Thank you.
who he loves and how he has to hide it from them. And it turns out they knew who he was all along because they're actually some sort of secret double agent, blah. No, this is just the action movie series you wanted it to be. You still have to pay way more attention than you do in a lot of other shows, because the plot is thick and there are a lot of characters
With 2 C's.
Yeah. It is thick. And there's a lot of to be blunt, European white dudes who all look the same. So you have to pay attention. But it is a lot of fun if you like a good spy thriller, and it's what you wish it was season 1.
That sounds really
great. You
great.
don't need to know anything about season 1 or 2.
Is that really? Oh, that's great. Yeah, don't give me the love story. I want a spy story. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. Allanah, what do you got?
I went and saw the Fabelmans last night. I loved it. There are 3 seconds of film in that are among the best 3 seconds of film that I have ever seen in my entire life. Just based on the context and what it built up to. The moment this happened, I immediately started weeping. It was perfect in that moment. There were flaws with the movie, but I really liked it overall. But just that 3 seconds was like stunning filmmaking, and it's so significant to the storytelling and the story, and it's so significant to Steven Spielberg's story that I think it's worth calling out. The other thing I wanted to say is I've been doing a similar thing with a game that I never got to, which is Assassin's Creed Unity, which is the French one. I'm enjoying it. I'm almost done with it. I play those games. I love those games. They're very good. But the last thing I wanted to just share about was a TV show that is accessible on Hulu called Lodge 49. I don't think we talked about this last year, but it is a story about a Masonic order called the Lynx, or a fraternal order called the Lynx that's modeled after Masonic order or the Elk or things like that. And it has pieces of magical realism in it, and it is really kind of the story of Don Quixote, and it stars Wyatt Russell and a whole bunch of people you probably haven't seen in anything else. And one of the beautiful parts about it is it gives a lot of opportunities to older actors. Like most of the core cast is over 50 or 60. And there are a bunch of people of color in it in various roles of impact. And it really explores the relationship between Wyatt Russell's character and his twin sister that's played by a Brit named, I think, Sonia Cassidy. And their relationship and her performance is outstanding. I highly recommend it. It's an hour-long hangout dramedy where you will just get into it and just love the characters, and you want to show up to the lodge and have a drink with them. I don't know very many people who've watched it. It only got 2 seasons, and the state of all these people, it just feels like a kind of a place we were all in during the pandemic, where we're broken and damaged and harmed, and we're just looking for community, and a place to sit down and have a drink and have a chat, and potentially find a mentor, which is what happens. But there's a character played by David Picchesi, who, if you watched Veep, was her ex-husband, and he's been in a bunch of other different things, and he plays this stoner Blaze, and he's just feasting on the role, and his line deliveries throughout are beautiful. So I highly recommend it. Check it out. Lodge 49 on Hulu.
Sounds good. Wyatt Russell,
I actually
like
saw
him.
that on your spreadsheet list, and because of that, I added it to my queue on Hulu, because it's like,
oh, nice.
I read your little like one-liner. Just I was like, okay, this sounds like this would be up my alley. So
Yeah. I think it's a mix between the resort and Always Sun and Cheers. Let's just say that the resort and Cheers.
we had me at the resort.
Yeah.
Great. That sounds good. Curtis, what do you got?
I got a couple things. I binged through season 3 of Barry.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's a good show.
It was fucked up in all the right ways and fucked up in all the right ways. Super fucked up show. I felt really fucked up watching it at the end. Girlfriend, when she got all drawn into like the toxic sort of nature of revenge and carnage and all that sort of shit, was super fucked up.
Yeah.
Sad. It's a sad story, really. I mean, it's sort of billed as kind of a comedy, but I didn't find it. I mean, there was amusing moments, I mean, they throw levity in there, but yeah, really interesting protagonist who's basically a sad psychopath, I mean,
which they really highlight in that season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I find
and the ending was terrific. Yeah, it's good television. It's good writing.
Mhm.
I was a big fan of Barry season 1 and 2, but I feel like they must have gone on hiatus with that show or something.
Mhm.
I was halfway through this last season before I started to sort of tie in who these secondary characters were. Like I almost needed a rewatch of the previous seasons to sort of get the impact of this. So I don't know why they did that, but it was sort of
It was COVID.
I'm sure it
It was
was
COVID,
COVID
that was
related.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, there you go. And then the other thing is I'm going to tie it back to sports. I watched the Peach Bowl on Saturday night, and
game.
I am now a huge CJ Stroud fan.
Yeah.
I've been a Geno guy all year. If Seattle extends him and he's my quarterback next year, I'll be happy. But if they fucking draft CJ Stroud, I will lose my
Yeah.
goddamn mind. That dude put on a show against the best defense in America in college football. And yeah, somebody's going to draft a good quarterback out of that.
I
dude.
just think
Yeah.
like I can picture him and that Waldron offense, and I
Mhm.
think all his skill sets is just fits perfectly with it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
tuned into that
big
game
fan.
specifically to watch Jalen Carter because I feel like that's the guy on Seahawks Twitter that everybody wants Seattle to draft for,
Yeah.
a big defensive tackle. But I just kept on going like, oh shit, Stroud.
Yeah.
It's like,
I unfortunately for the Seahawks, I think Chicago might draft him. And if
You think-
Arizona
Fields?
No, what I think is
No.
going to happen, I think Chicago will probably trade back out of 2. Some team will probably get in front of Seattle to take a quarterback, especially if a quarterback goes, which everybody's anticipating, to Houston first overall. I can actually see a scenario where quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3 in this draft.
I
or
was talking
4.
about Carter. I thought
Yeah.
Chicago would draft Jalen Carter.
Oh,
yeah,
got
Carter
it. Got
for
it.
sure.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Carter's probably going to Chicago.
Chicago, yeah. And if Arizona gets a spot ahead of Seattle, if Carter doesn't go to Chicago, I think Carter goes to Arizona.
Yeah.
He can be great on both teams.
Well, we've got
I
our
love
board bet.
that Seattle's in a position to get CJ Stroud. I'm a huge CJ Stroud fan, and I would be over the moon if that was the pick. Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah.
He's good stuff. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast, you should check out Curtis's blog, 12life.com. He's always got a bunch of interesting things to say about the Seahawks and a breakdown of their games. If you like it, you should hit that like button or the follow button or whatever it is, wherever you follow it. We're on Google and Apple Podcast and Spotify, and all of them. And if we're not on the ones you follow, let us know and we'll get on there. Once again, my name is Daniel. For Millie, Curtis, Allanah, the rest of the 12s, saying goodbye and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Go Lions.